Welcome to CrashMagic. Today we are going to look at the card trick that I call the Chaos Predictions. I think this one is literally mind-blowing. So let's get into the performance, and then there'll be a tutorial where you can learn how to perform the trick, followed by a full explanation of how the trick works. We start with a pack of cards. I'm going to split this pack into two halves, half for you and half for me. I'm going to give my half a good shuffle, and if you could do the same with your half. Now, I'm going to take about half the cards from the top of my pile, turn them face up and give them to you. And if you could take about half the cards from the top of your pile, turn them face up and give them to me. Now, I'm going to riffle shuffle these two piles together, so we have face up and face down cards mixed. And if you could please do the same. Again, I'm going to take the top half of my pile, turn them over and give them to you. And if you could do the same. And now if we again riffle shuffle our two piles together. And one last time. I turn over the top half of my pile and give it you. And if you turn over the top half of your pile and give it me. And now if we both riffle shuffle our piles together again. Now I'm going to give my pile a really good shuffle. And if you could give your pile a final shuffle. So we now each have a pile of cards that are thoroughly mixed, and where some of the cards are face up and some of the cards are face down. I'll now shuffle these two piles together. So now we can see the whole pack is in chaos and a mix of face up and face down cards. You may have noticed this piece of paper with predictions written on it that has been here throughout the trick. My first prediction was that there would be 25 cards face down in this pack. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 and 25. My next prediction was that 10 of these cards would be black. One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And my final prediction was that they would all be clubs. Oh, what's that you say? They aren't all clubs. I did make one more prediction. I really hope you enjoyed that performance, and I'm now going to show you how to do this great trick. There's no sleight of hand needed, but there is quite a bit of setup. So first you need to create your predictions, and I just do this on a piece of paper. So if you get a piece of paper and fold it in half once, twice, 3 times, and then on the front write predictions, and then on the back write except the ace of spades. And then if you open this up, inside here I write there will be 25 face down cards. Then open it up again and I write 10 of them, these cards will all be black. And then open it up again and write, and they will all be clubs. So once you've done that, obviously fold it all back up again, so you've got the predictions bit on the outside, and then you want to place this where it can be seen, but make sure the back can't be seen by the spectator, but just put it on show somewhere. So now we need to set up some cards. We need 15 red cards, doesn't matter if they're hearts or diamonds, 15 red cards. And then we need 9 clubs, any values, 9 clubs. And finally we need the ace of spades. We then take the red cards and the clubs and we can mix and shuffle these together so they're all mixed up. And then once you've done that, you put the ace of spades on the bottom of that, and then put the whole of that pile on top of the rest of the pack. So that's all the setup done, and now you're ready to begin the trick. So at this point, if you want, you can do a fake shuffle or a fake cut, as long as you make sure you keep the whole pack in order. Personally, I don't think you need to, and there's two reasons for that. A, the first thing you're going to do in the trick is you're going to go through and show the spectator the whole pack anyway, and they're going to see all the cards are all mixed up. And secondly, you're going to be doing that much shuffling during the trick anyway. So then you go through the pack and show the spectator all the cards, show them that they're all different and seemingly not in any order. But as you're doing this, you're trying to spot the ace of spades at about the halfway point of the pack. Obviously then you want to split the pack into two, and don't show the spectator this obviously, but once you see the ace of spades, that's where you want to split the pack. So you split the pack in two there, and you give the setup stock that you set up at the start to the spectator, and you take the other half. So now the spectator has the pile with the ace of spades, the 15 reds and the 9 clubs. You can now shuffle your pack of cards, and you can shuffle them as much as you want. Likewise, you get the spectator to shuffle their pile. Again, they can shuffle them as much as they want. They can use any technique to shuffle them that they want, as long as they all stay face down at this point. So once that's done, you want to take roughly half of the pack and flip it the other way around, face up, and give them to the spectator, and tell the spectator to do the same. They can take as many as they want, just roughly half though. Flip them face up and give them to you, and then you will shuffle together the face up and face down cards that you've got. I normally use a riffle shuffle, and I normally ask the spectator to do the same if possible, so they again need to shuffle their two piles together. In actual fact, you can use any shuffle that you want. You can cut the cards, you can use an overhand shuffle, but I think riffle shuffle gives the best mix of cards. The only key thing is, however they choose to shuffle, they must not turn any of the cards over. That's the key thing to watch. All the cards must stay the same face, either up or down. So then we go ahead and do this again. So again, we take off about half and switch it the other way around, and ask the spectator to do the same. And again, we shuffle our two piles together, and then we ask the spectator to shuffle their two piles together again. And then I tend to do this one more time, so I tend to do it 3 times. In actual fact, it doesn't make any difference at all. You can do this process as many times as you want. 1, 2, 3, 5 makes no difference, but I tend to do 3. So again, we take half, turn them over, give them the spectator, ask them to do the same, and then we shuffle our two piles together. And once we've done that, we get the spectator to shuffle their two piles together. Of course, this is a great effect for the spectator to see all these cards face up, face down in these piles. At this point, I'll take my pile and give them another shuffle. Again, any sort of shuffle is absolutely fine. Overhand, riffle shuffle. Again, the key thing is to make sure that none of the cards get turned over. Ask the spectator to do the same with their pile as well. So once that's done, it's at this point I then like to show the spectator, go through all the packs and show them that there's face up and face down cards in both of the piles. The other key thing to do while you're doing this is, what you want to do is you want to make sure you turn over one of the piles. It doesn't matter which one, but you need to turn over one of the piles. So quite often what I'll do is I'll show, look, there's face up and face down cards here. I then will flip that pack and show them the other way, face up, face down cards, and then I'll put that pile down on the table. Of course, that means I've flipped it. Then I'll take the other pile and say, look, in this pile we've got face up and face down cards, but then with this pile I'll just put it straight back on the table. So now we've got a reverse of one of the packs that we need. After this, we can shuffle the two packs together to form one big pile again. Again, it doesn't matter how you do this as long as the orientation of all the cards stays the same and we're back with one pile. So at this point again, I will show the spectator, look, we've now got one pile of cards, all the cards mixed together, some face up, some face down. Now the key thing that you're doing here is looking for the ace of spades under the pretense of showing the spectator that there's face up and face down cards in this pile. Because what you need to do is make sure that the ace of spades is facing down on the table. So if you go through the pack like that and you don't see the ace of spades, you know you're okay and you can just put the pile down. If not, again, turn the pack over and say, look, we've got face up, face down cards, and then you'll see the ace of spades. And as I say, the key thing is to make sure that goes face down on the table. So now it's time for the predictions. And if you followed all the steps correctly, this is all self-working. So obviously when you show the predictions, make sure you do not show that back final prediction before the end. Open up and show that your first prediction is that there should be 25 face down cards. As I say, this is all totally self-working from this point on. As long as you followed all the steps carefully and made sure that the spectator and yourself haven't turned over any of the cards or forgotten any of the steps, then you will indeed have 25 face down cards at this point, which of course is highly impressive to your spectator. You don't need these cards then, so we can put those to the side, and then you can show your next prediction, which of course that you predicted that there'd be 10 cards that were black. So you just again count those out. And once you've done that, again, you don't need the other cards, so you can put those to the side. And then you show the spectator, you open the paper fully so they think this is the last prediction, and that's that they will all be clubs. Now at this point I fold the prediction back up, making sure not to show the back of the prediction as I fold it up, and I put it back down where it was. And then I spread the cards out to show them all the black cards and say that my final prediction was that they were all clubs. Now of course 9 times out of 10 a spectator will notice that the ace of spades is there and they will point it out, at which point of course you show your final prediction. Or if on the off chance your spectator doesn't spot the ace of spades, after a few seconds you can point it out yourself of course and say, oh, actually they're not all clubs. Luckily I made one more prediction. So that's the end of my performance of this trick, and by following those exact steps that I've shown you, you can do this trick as well and absolutely bamboozle your spectators. Now when I first learnt how to do this trick, and even when I was managing to go through the steps and do this trick, I was absolutely confused myself as to how it worked, and because of that I wasn't confident in personalising it or changing it at all. So I'm also going to do a quick explanation now of exactly how this trick works. Okay, let's get into the explanation then of exactly how and why this trick works. So of course, as you know, we start off with our predictions here that we've already written out, and then we start with our 9 clubs, our ace of spades and our 15 red cards here. And as you know, we mix the clubs and the red cards together, and then we put the ace of spades on the bottom of that group, and that is our stockpile. And we put this pile on top of the other pile. We then of course show this to the spectator just to show them that all the cards are different and they're seemingly not in any order. And of course we look out for the ace of spades without making this obvious to them or showing them, and once we see the ace of spades, that's the point where we split the pack. So we give that stock of 25 cards to the spectator, and then we keep the other pile. So now comes the part of the trick that really causes all the confusion, where you turn over the top half of your pile, the spectator turns over the top half of their pile, you switch and you shuffle the cards together face up and face down. So we're not going to do that bit just for now. We're going to skip to the end bit because that will make it a lot more obvious, I think, as to exactly how this trick works. So if we just think that the spectator has got the stock pile, the 25 cards, the 15 reds, the 10 blacks, 9 of which are clubs and 1 of which is the ace of spades. Of course these will be thoroughly mixed. They get to shuffle them at the start as we do with our pile as well. But of course it is this pile of cards ultimately that fulfills the predictions. These are the cards that are face down, the 9 blacks and the ace of spades. And then this pile that the magician has, to start with at least, of all the random cards. So if you remember at the end of the trick, what we do is we turn one of the piles of cards over, it doesn't matter which one, and then we shuffle these piles together. So if you think in this case where we haven't already mixed them, we've still got all the 9 clubs, the ace of spades and the red cards face up, at which point we'd go through the pack, spot the ace of spades, turn it face down, and of course now we're in exactly the position we need to be for the cards to be all taken out and fulfill the predictions. And if you think about it, the order of the cards is really not important for this trick. It doesn't matter what order any of the cards are in. All that matters is that this stockpile is in one direction, either face up or face down, and the other cards are all in the opposite direction. So now we understand how the beginning and the end of the trick work. Let's go back to that tricky section in the middle, which I think just works so well, because even in card magic it's just not that common to see cards mixed face up and face down together. So it's at this point that the magician takes off half of his pile, turns it face up and gives it to the spectator, and the spectator takes up half of their cards, turns them face up and gives them to the magician, and of course these two piles are then riffle shuffled together. But of course what that means is basically any stock card that's in the magician's pile is now face up, whereas all the random cards are face down. Conversely, on the other side, the spectator side, all the stock cards are face down, whereas any random cards that have come from the magician's pile are face up. And that really is the key to the whole trick. As I said before, it doesn't matter how much you shuffle these cards because the order's not relevant. The key thing is which cards are face up and which cards are face down. And any of the original stockpile that get turned over and given to the magician are then the opposite way round to the stock cards that the spectator has. And likewise the random cards are face down in the magician's pile and they're face up if ever they're passed over to the spectator. So of course all this means when you come to the end, as long as you reverse one of the packs, either the spectator's pack or the magician's pack, when you then shuffle them together, you come back to the same state of all 25 stock cards being in one direction, either face up or face down, and all the random cards being in the opposite direction. Of course all of this means that you can now see that you can shuffle and do this routine of switching cards face up, giving them to the spectator, them giving them to you, and shuffling the cards. You can do that as many times or as few times as you want. 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever. And likewise, it doesn't matter what shuffle they do. They can do an overhand shuffle, they can just cut the cards. The only key thing that's important is that no other or extra cards get turned over face up or face down while they're shuffling. And apart from that, you're good. Well, I hope that explanation has made it a bit more clear exactly how the trick works, and then obviously now allows you to change it and personalise it however you like. Well, that's the end of my video. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe. If you've got any comments, leave them down below, and see you soon.